Jacob and Hunter's romantic storyline progresses smoothly, with mutual testing and growing closeness. But after building some trust and intimacy, external danger sneaks in. Discontent with the deity's presence, summon the wolf pack target Hunter. Jacob must confront this sudden crisis and his uncertain powers. This intertwining of emotional development and external conflict creates powerful drama. Chapter 70. When the bathroom door clicked shut. Jacob knelt beside the ornate brass taps, his fingers hovering over the bath's porcelain surface. He turned the hot tap, letting the water cascade over his fingers as he waited for the temperature to rise. Hunter leaned against the sink, arms crossed, trying to calm his racing heart. The prospect of sharing another intimate moment with Jacob sent his thoughts spiraling in delightful anticipation. The enormous tub filled rapidly as Jacob added cold water, seeking the perfect balance of warmth for them both to enjoy. He pressed his lips together, deliberately avoiding Hunter's gaze, knowing he'd find a mischievous glint and impending smirk there. Jacob's cheeks remained flushed, warm, and crimson. Yet, he felt a thrill of excitement at his newfound ability to summon his confidence. This self-assurance had long lurked in the shadows of his psyche, taunting him with visions of who he could have been. Whenever it surfaced, it would flicker like a blown fuse, expending its energy before retreating to the lonely recesses of his mind. He had never been able to grasp it firmly until someone assured him that his authentic self was not only acceptable but worthy of love. "Hunter," Jacob murmured over the sound of running water. "Why did you used to tell me that you would take me swimming?" The werewolf's mind drifted back to those days when his mate didn't know him, recalling those very words. "Well, I know you liked the water, especially when it's freezing cold because it took your mind off me. I would say it because I wanted to hold a conversation. I don't know what I was hoping for. You'd always shoot me down instantly. Who wouldn't? You were a bit of a creep." Jacob chuckled lightly. Hunter moved closer, crouching beside him. "I was in a lot of emotional pain, you know." He grinned. "It hurts so much seeing you every day and knowing my words were making you worse. I like it now. Jacob returned his attention to the water. Noticing the bath was full, he turned off the taps and stood up. "Hearing your voice feels normal." Hunter rose as well, releasing a heavy sigh. "I'm not sure if I'm ready for this." Gazing at the water made his breathing labored. "Sam used to try and force me into rivers to clean my wolf, and he never understood why I got mad at him and refused." Jacob began to undress, removing his shoes, socks, and then his jumper. "Are you worried that he'll treat you differently if you told him?" Hunter nodded and watched him closely. Jacob dipped his fingers in the water, checking that he was going to scold himself before lifting his lid and stepping in. "What are you doing, Jacob?" Hunter's confusion grew when he sat down, fully clothed, getting his jeans and t-shirt soaking wet. "You can't tell me you're still shy. We showered together this morning." Jacob looked up with eyes that could read 1,000 expressions and a little smile that could warm 1,000 hearts. "If you want to see me naked, you have to get in the water and undress me." His voice was quiet and cute. Hunter's mouth very slowly hung open and his words echoed around his mind. One eyebrow raised as he subconsciously started to pull at the bottom of his t-shirt. "You told me you didn't know how to flirt." He was rather stunned. "You're a fast learner." He stepped closer, feeling his mate take advantage of his over-affectionate personality. "But well played. There's no way I'm missing out on this." He pulled off his shirt and unbuttoned his jeans. Jacob awkwardly watched him strip down until he had no clothes on. Yet, he was still relaxed because the share definitely helped. He was also ready to share some affection with him, now that he was getting used to it. His cravings grew innocently stronger. Hunter watched the gentle ripples in the water and took a breath. Jacob's white t-shirt was becoming see-through and clinging to his muscular body. He lifted his leg and lowered it into the warmth. When he was stood in the bath, he crouched, letting the water rise up to his waist, hiding his lower half and only exposing his knees. Jacob watched him take a sharp intake of air, and immediate thoughts of panic flooded Hunter's head. "Remember where you are," he thought, boldly dominating his worries. Hunter was gripping the bath hard. He flashed back to the moment when he rose to the surface of the lake after being rescued by a stranger. He was screaming, kicking and fighting with everything he had, understanding that his grandparents were stuck and not able to set themselves free. He had coughed up water and cried until it left his system. "I can't do this." As he started to stand, Jacob leaned forwards and gripped his shoulders. "Look at me," he whispered, bringing his face close. Hunter made eye contact and Jacob knew he was completely exposed, physically and mentally. "Everything is okay now. Nothing can hurt you." Hunter blinked, seeing him more clearly. Jacob felt his shoulders relax, and he started breathing again. "Sorry, I just panicked for a minute." He sat down, letting himself relax into the curve of the bath when Jacob let go of him. "Don't be sorry." Hunter sighed and ran his wet hands through his hair. He inhaled strongly and exhaled slowly. When he crossed his arms, he allowed his dashing and spirited personality to shine again. "Thank you. Not even my parent can calm me down like that." Jacob smiled and tugged at his t-shirt. "My clothes feel weird on." Hunter's eyes grew wide. "Is this like one of your kinks? Because I'm totally digging it." Jacob's cheeks flared a deeper shade of red, if that was even possible. "I didn't mean for that to sound." "Of course you didn't." Hunter slowly sat up onto his knees, not really enjoying the water around him, but he ignored it the best he could. "You'll eat a sweet." He moved forwards, putting his hands on the side of the bathtub and trapping his mate and himself against it. It took him a matter of seconds to connect their lips. Jacob closed his eyes and kissed him back. The passion rose between them, as did the heat. Hunter moved his hands and stroked them along the bottom of Jacob's t-shirt. They both shuddered and separated their lips so he could peel off the wet fabric, clinging to his skin. When the t-shirt was off, Hunter dropped it on the floor, letting it lap the tiles. He pushed his face in again, connecting their lips once more. It was strong and full of meaning. Jacob could feel his passion rising while they moved in sync. Hunter pulled at his jeans button. Then slowly, he unzipped them. Jacob felt his hand brush at a delicate area, and he cowed and held back his pleasure. He lifted a hand and cupped the back of his neck, deepening the kiss. The alpha stayed in control and pulled his jeans down his legs. It was a little difficult in the position they were in that when they were off. He dropped them on the floor too. The kisses continued to deepen until Hunter had one hand buried in Jacob's hair and one hand tugging on his underwear waistline. "Do I have permission?" Hunter's musky voice clouded the god's thoughts. "Yes," Jacob breathed out loud, giving his mate the opportunity to invade his mouth with his tongue. But the innocence hit him hard and he pulled back. Hunter immediately stopped and opened his eyes. I don't." Jacob felt embarrassed. "You don't like that." Hunter moved his face closer. "That's okay. It does feel weird the first few times." He brushed his nose down his cheek and kissed the outline of his jaw, feeling the little jabs of approaching stubble against his lips. Hunter liked the feel of it and moved on to his neck, kissing harder and deeper into his skin, wanting to make his mate moan at least once. Jacob closed his eyes, only able to focus on how his smooth lips felt against him. He had never experienced anything like this before, and he didn't understand what was so special about affection. Until now, Hunter was gently nibbling him, marking him as his. He was trying to find his sweet spot, but was running out of room, so he kissed closer to his collarbone. Jacob's fingers instantly tightened against the back of his neck, and he knew he found it. Softly sucking on it and pulling on the back of his hair was enough for Jacob to expose the cutest little, pleasured whimper Hunter has ever heard. He stopped for a moment, treasuring the sound, wanting to go much further and fully mark him. But he looked up to see that the brown in Jacob's eyes had almost been masked over by the black, lustful pupils. His cheeks were red and he was bottom lip. Hunter had to sit up. Otherwise, he would lose his self-control, and Jacob was still not ready. In the process of them kissing, Hunter did manage to pull off his underwear. They were sitting naked in a bathtub, which was something they did not think would be done for a while. Hunter's eyes traced Jacob's beautifully sculptured body. He looked like one of the marble naked statues sees in posh places or museums. He stopped when there was a little love bite forming just above his collarbone. Satisfaction filled him to the brim. He would try and show that off, making sure everyone knew he belonged to him. It's a wolf trait to be a little possessive. 𝐊𝐢𝐧𝐷 and return. What he felt when they were so close and intimate was something he could barely describe. Why was he nervous about affection when it brought such magnificent and truthful feelings? They were both raw, exposed, and completely themselves. It was breathtaking to feel this comfortable in the eyes of another being. Hunter coiled his legs around Jacob so they could sit more comfortably in the limited space. He was pumped full of great emotions that he almost forgot why Jacob wanted him to take a bath in the first place, staring at his immense perfection. There was one emotion that dominated his whole body, including his heart. Jacob was connecting their stare, seeing right into his soul, and Hunter felt like now was the perfect time to express himself. He could no longer hold the precious words back. "I love you." Jacob's eyes widened, but only for a second. Those 3 words have never meant anything so powerful before. Yes, he has heard it from his family, but they are somewhat inclined to love him. This was different. Even though the bond was forcing them to be together, they had to find the love on their own. Jacob then smiled, but it was small and timid like it usually is. This one was significantly happy, bright and full of pride, flashing his perfect teeth. A fulfillment rippled through him, and nothing would ever stop him from saying this out loud. "I love you too." Chapter 71. So I guess we didn't really think this through. Hunter chuckled. He was stood in the bathroom and Jacob was still sitting in the bath. However, his clothes were wet and he had nothing to change into. There were no towels here because all of their belongings were lost in the fire. "Let me see if there is anything in the other bathrooms." Hunter had allowed himself to air dry as he pulled his T-shirt over his head, chuckling on his way out. He shut the door behind him. Jacob turned, not wanting to risk someone walking in on him, and stared hard at the lock on the door. He knew he possessed telekinesis, but he still wasn't really sure how to use it. Lifting a hand out of the warm water, he did the stereotypical pointing at nothing, hoping it would move. He felt silly doing it, but if he was a god who could teleport, summon storms and control electricity, then he would stop trying. His mind relaxed and he imagined a force shooting from his palms, flowing over to the lock. It would latch on like it was part of him and twist it when he twisted his palm. Jacob took a breath, turned his hand and jumped when the noise of the door locking echoed in the bathroom. He managed to use his telekinesis for the first time without any problems. Raising his eyebrows, he stared at it until an idea popped into his head. To get clothes, he could teleport to his bedroom at home and get changed. Jacob climbed out of the bath with a little smile on his face before disappearing, leaving the bathroom closed from the inside. Hunter entered the bedroom empty-handed, but stopped after reading Jacob's thoughts. "Oh, that's clever. I'm glad you're finding uses for your powers now." He thought and tried to get into the bathroom, but it was locked. Well, mostly. Jacob quickly got changed, teleported back to the bathroom and unlocked it from the inside. He opened it to reveal Hunter with his arms crossed, standing patiently. His eyes examined Jacob. He had a long-sleeved gray top on that clung to his muscles. "You're hot." He grinned with his dazzling smile, not caring that Jacob's cheeks flared up. "I wish you could see yourself how I see you." Turning, he looked around the room, pulled off his T-shirt and effortlessly changed into his wolf. "I'm claiming my territory. What a help." Hunter collapsed to the floor and started rolling around, embedding his scent into the wood. Jacob watched him, finding it amusing before he changed too, only to find himself stuck in his top. He was in his puppy form. Hunter, can you help me?" Hunter stopped and started pulling at the top with his teeth. When Jacob was free, he shook his head and allowed his cute tears to flop around. "I've missed your pup form." Hunter gave him a big lick on his face before wandering over to the bed. Wanting to roll around on the mattress, Anthony sat on a huge leather couch, designed to seat 7 people. Looking around the big modern room allowed his mind to feel fresh and relaxed for the first time today. He had been talking to Scott, who was ready to tell his sons about the letter Grace left behind. They had to know. It's not fair for them to be left with unanswered questions. 𝐿𝐷𝐼 offered him a place to stay in their wonderful new home, and he almost released his constant heartbreak. Scott has never been so thankful to receive help. He is usually very independent and gets things done on his own. This time, the 𝐊𝐢𝐧 family have saved him from years of money troubles and sleepless nights. Of course, he is still going to work so he can add money to the werewolf community. 𝐿𝐷𝐼 and Margot get this home by default due to being the leaders. But Scott still wanted to pay his way, even if it wasn't fully necessary. Suddenly, Hunter and Jacob came running into the room, still in their wolf forms. Jacob the pup scrambled under the table and made Hunter's big wolf skid across the floor, narrowly missing the wood. He cowled and fit under it, and Jacob knew it. Their wolf traits were playful, and they had been chasing each other around the house. Luckily, the people who had been decorating the bathroom were part of the wolf society. They didn't bat an eyelid when Hunter galloped past. Jacob jokingly yelped when he pulled him out from under the table by the scruff of his neck, then pretended to nip him on his belly. Scott watched with big eyes, loving the beauty of their magical fur. 𝐿𝐷𝐼 glanced behind him to make sure Margot wasn't watching them. For the first few weeks, she'll be very protective over the new house until she can settle down and stop treating it like it's made of glass. Boys, don't play rough inside, please. Hunter laid down and calmed his lively, biting to gentle licks on Jacob's soft ears. Jacob, Scott spoke, making him look up. Have you seen your brother? Jacob changed back and fell against Hunter's warm fur. Yes, he cleared his throat, letting his voice adjust. 𝐻ES with Sam. Those two are quite similar. 𝐿𝐷𝐼 chuckled. They both talk a lot and have way too much energy. They get on really well too. Scott was glad William didn't feel alone through this big change in his family life. Sam did his best to include him, and he really appreciated it. Hunter, can you get? Before 𝐿𝐷𝐼 could finish, William and Hunter's pack walked in, chuckling about something. Scott stood up and felt bad. He knew that what he had to say would ruin his son's mood. This day has been a rather stressful one for everybody. Jacob, William, can we go into the garden? I have someone to talk about. His sons made eye contact, and Jacob climbed to his feet. Hunter changed back, knowing what they were going to talk about, and thought they needed some family time. Alone, turning to his pack. He needed to show them some attention today. Boys, let's go for a run. He smiled at Jacob, kissed his forehead, and walked with his pack out of the room. Simple kisses were still sweet and endearing, but they were no longer surprising and instantly exciting. Scott reluctantly guided his sons into the beautiful garden. It was large and connected to a field, which is where Hunter and his pack could be seen, running in the distance. William spotted a picnic bench, and they sat down with their dad sitting opposite. He seemed a little nervous, which was an unusual expression for him to show. Are you okay? William's voice was serious. Scott sighed and started chipping away at the wooden table with his fingernail. With his other hand, he pulled out Grace's letter and gave it to them. He wanted their point of view without him influencing it in any way. William opened it and held it up for him and his younger brother to read. Scott's eyes darted around, still finding it difficult to profess that she had abandoned her family. It took almost a minute for them to read her goodbye words, and William was first to raise his eyebrows. She's leaving us. Scott nodded, then handed him the divorce letters. Jacob wasn't very good at showing his emotion, but he was not fully surprised to read this news. They have heard nothing from her in days, and she always did take the cowardly approach, never fighting for what she has, always manipulating things to meet her standards. When did you get this? Yesterday, or the day before? Scott sighed. I don't know. The past few weeks have been a bit of a blur. Are you gonna sign these? William asked. Jacob could hear the hurt in his voice. Yes, Scott said quietly. I think it's for the best. William slowly nodded. It was hard to hear that his parents were divorcing, but it was easier after knowing his mother purposely made bad decisions. Jacob studied his dad, feeling everything he was experiencing, even if it was showing on the surface. Reading people was now one of his godly gifts, even if he didn't really know how to handle it. You deserve better. Scott looked up when William nodded, agreeing. She might be our mother, but that doesn't mean we have to like her. Doing this to you, well, to us is just cruel. Just running away from her problems. It's just stupid. William spoke the cold, hard truth. You have to understand that I was and maybe even still am in love with her. We were married for a very long time. It will be hard for me to get over this. It'll be hard for you both to adjust without her, but I think I have something that will help. Scott made sure he spoke with confidence, showing them that no secrets were to be held between them. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 offered us the opportunity to move in with him and his family. Jacob raised his eyebrows, not thinking they would allow humans to live with them. Hunter had told him about how they were concerned for his safety in the beginning. Rival wolves who knew Jacob was a mate of a high-ranked alpha did cause problems in the beginning. But now, Hunter was the one in trouble, being a mate of a god. That's... William's eyes were growing wider. Amazing. Are you going to accept their offer? I think you should. This house is so big, and our old home is full of mostly Mom's stuff. It would be hard to get over her if we stayed. Also, it'll be easier for Jacob, not having to commute between two houses when his true place is Hunter. William exploded his thoughts verbally. I agree, Jacob said quietly. I'd like to stay here. But what do you think, Dad? Scott's eyes had brightened up. Just a little bit. I'd love it. Margot and 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 know how much I will struggle to keep our old home. Financially. It's just not possible, and we'd end up having to move anyway. His sons nodded, and Scott felt the heavy strain of stress lift from his chest, feeling incredibly grateful to have such understanding kids. He stood up and held out his arms. The boys grinned and quickly walked around the wooden table to complete the embrace. The Jones family hugged, uniting their strong family bond. I love you both. So much. Scott closed his eyes and squeezed them tightly. Love you too. The brothers spoke in unison. The back door then squeaked and Scott looked up. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 had his phone in his hand with a warming smile at their hug. Yet, his eyes looked a little confused. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I've just got a call from the prison. He walked over, staring at Jacob the entire time. Alicia killed herself this morning. What? Scott gasped. How she hung herself with her trousers. Apparently. It wouldn't surprise me if it was a murder. Wolves attempting to kill their own is not looked upon lightly, even by other inmates. Jacob started to frown. But I know Jacob. You thought you saw her this afternoon, which is why I'm a little uneasy. It must have been a look-alike, he said quietly. Yet deep down, something felt odd about the situation. You're not convinced, though. Are you? I don't know. It feels weird. Maybe you can see ghosts. William shrugged. I doubt it. You would have seen my parents. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 crossed his arms. Maybe she faked her own death. No, it was definitely her in the cell. They did 3 DNA tests. What if he can sense when people die? William suggested, which left that as a possibility. I guess that kind of makes stepped when Jacob's eyes suddenly grew very round. He turned behind him but saw nothing. What is it? Jacob's breath was shaky. His hands started to tremble. Not one bit. I can see her, he whispered. Chapter 72. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 turned and studied the space behind him, not able to see what Jacob was seeing. William gently placed a hand on his shoulder. Where is she? By the back door. He breathed. She's staring right at me. Once more. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐻 looked behind him and saw nobody. This is creepy. Alicia's eyes were like looking into an empty pit. They were dark. Emotionals is, and he detected no soul, indicating that it had gone, leaving her empty shelled body behind. I don't understand. She's dead. Jacob could feel his storm brewing in the sky. Something was pushing him to go and speak to her. He knew her spirit was here for a reason. Is she saying anything? Scott questioned. Just then, Margot walked outside and straight through Alicia, who vanished into thin air. Jacob blinked in for a second, questioned his sanity. She's gone. This was a very odd situation to be stuck in, and he was the only one who could figure it out. So he teleported into the bedroom which Hunter previously claimed, leaving everyone else to their confusion. He sat on the floor and took a big breath of air, burying his head in his hands. He tried to make sense of what was happening. Hope was all he could cling on to, but that felt worse. In the past, it was easy to abandon faith when he was alone. The room was deadly silent, empty and too big. He wanted to curl up under a duvet and escape from the world. Suddenly, he gasped and scrambled across the floor with huge and fearful eyes. Someone had tapped his shoulder, and he found himself looking at 𝐿𝐸 once more. He was breathing heavy with his back pushed against the side of the bed. Getting a fright was very easy for Jacob, but this was on a whole different level. Why are you here? He whispered, trying not to sound utterly terrified. 𝐿𝐸 sat on the floor too. She didn't attempt to move closer, but the empty emotion on her face and his history with her were very unsettling. I'm warning you. Even her voice was monotone and stripped from any life she ever had. About what? He could barely hold his thoughts together. Are you okay, Jacob? Why are you thinking about 𝐿𝐸? Hunter's voice filled his head, making him instantly switch off their mind link. He had to concentrate on the danger in front of him. 𝐿𝐸 killed herself this morning, or so he had been told. I am her body, the one in which you remember. Her soul has gone to where it belongs, and her spirit is left with us, so we can use it to our advantage. Jacob started to fidget. If this was 𝐿𝐸, then who was 𝐊𝐢𝐳, the keeper of lightning and the god of wolves? You are very important to us, and it is in our best interest that we keep your guardian safe. Hunter. Jacob was starting to feel confused. Who are you? My identity is not important at this current stage. However, your soulmate is in great danger. We looked through 𝐿𝐸's memories, thoughts and feelings. She holds a very strong and heavy anger towards yourself and your guardian, but her death today was no suicide. Jacob was now beginning to feel intrigued. Did someone kill her? But how is Hunter in danger? Hunter's beta wolf is incredibly loyal. However, his omega wolves are plotting against him as we speak. What? The fear had left Jacob's mind. Surely, this could not be true. How do you know this? 𝐿𝐸's killer is Ricky. Who is Hunter's omega wolf? Looking through her memories, he told her what they were doing right before she died. He said how he has always despised the gods and their powers. He is not the only one who isn't enjoying your high status. A lot of people want Hunter raised and ed, including his own pack members. They know they cannot kill you directly, so they are targeting the only thing that will kill you from a broken heart. Your mate. Jacob was incredibly stunned as a heavy storm hovered above the house. Why did he kill 𝐿𝐸? He breathed, because she knew they were never fully loyal, and even from prison, her voice could have been heard. She would do everything to ruin the pack. How did he get into the prison? His dad works there and smuggled him inside the building. He also dislikes the gods and didn't want 𝐿𝐸 to ruin their plan. Jacob very slowly climbed to his feet. He could not believe he was talking to 𝐿𝐸's body with someone else inside, who was now telling him about how Sam is apparently the only loyal wolf in Hunter's pack. What plan? Today, they will drown your mate. Hunter galloped through the open air with his pack following proudly behind. The trail they were on was hardly known to humans and was often a very safe place for werewolves to go. When they were approaching a cliff face, Hunter slowed down, panting hard and enjoying the feel of his worked-out muscles. He changed back and turned, as did the rest of his pack. We haven't been here in a while. He breathed and sat on the grass. I thought you'd appreciate a pack run after me being a bit distant recently. Sam collapsed onto the ground and stared at the gloomy clouds approaching. I think. He paused, wanting to catch his breath. I'm gonna make a deal with Jacob. I want at least 1 day a week of full sunshine. Ricky, Harrison, and Jonah crouched together, waiting for the perfect moment to express their hidden hatred. He switched off my mind, Link. Hunter mumbled and closed his eyes. The subtle breeze and fresh air felt good. He could hear water and didn't want to think about looking over the cliff. It was around 8 feet tall and would not be a sensible place to get close. I think he likes having moments alone to himself. Yeah, Sam let out a content sigh. But I'd love to have a mate's voice in my head. It just sounds so appealing and comforting. I really want to find a mate. Do you think I will? I mean, I have to earn it, but I think I can do that. I am worthy of loving someone, right? Also Sam's voice stopped and Hunter frowned when there was a loud thud. Opening his eyes, he was horrified to see Jonah standing over him with a huge rock in his grip. Sam laid still with blood trickling from his head. What the hell? Jonah didn't let him finish before turning and throwing the rock in his direction. Hunter gasped but was too slow to block it from hitting him on the side of the face. The back of his head hit the grass hard, making the sounds around him instantly muffled. His vision blurred while his mind fought to stay awake. Lift him. Take him to the edge. Harrison ordered. Stop. Hunter slurred. Sam. What did you do to him? Ricky and Jonah coiled their arms under his and started dragging him to the edge of the cliff. Get off. I'm ordering you to stop. Hunter started to fight against them, but he was a little weak and confused. The wound on his head was affecting him. Worse, Ari, this has happened to you, Hunter. Harrison spoke and followed them to the edge. But 𝐿𝐤𝐽 can't live among us. You were a good alpha to us, and we do appreciate you. It's just unfortunate that you're paired with him. Hunter was struggling to understand the situation when he was placed right next to the cliff edge. He dug his hand into the grass and tried to pull himself away, but Ricky stood on it, making him cry out in pain. It was convenient that you took us here. He was under 𝐊𝐽 𝐑𝐝. We know you can't swim, so it was the easiest option for us to kill you. Hunter looked up and for the first time, 𝐊𝐽𝐧𝐠 saw the real fear in their alpha's eyes. You don't have to do this. He breathed. The gods are good for us. Jacob has done nothing wrong. Hearing him speak was making it harder for them. Jonah made the decision to do what they were told and started pushing him off the edge. Hunter's heart exploded in his chest and the soil was caught in his fingernails while he scratched at the ground, trying to stop them. No, please. Stop. He begged when his legs could no longer feel any ground below them. Please. I don't want to drown. His worst nightmare was coming true. All those times he has dreamt about dying the same way his grandparents did filled him with dread. It was indescribable how the fear crippled his body. But his own 𝐿𝐽𝐧𝐠 worked together and gave him one final push. Slowly, allowing Hunter to drop. Falling. The speed hit his stomach like a steep dip in the road or a drop on a roller coaster. The air rushed in his eyes, forcing them to close, burning his skin and making it impossible to move his limbs. It took a matter of seconds before his body came into contact with freezing water. However, he landed stomach first and it was like falling onto a concrete floor, instantly breaking his nose, a lot of ribs and giving him the headache of a lifetime. The freezing temperatures of the water swallowed him whole and filled his nose, ears, and mouth as he screamed in pain. The Omega wolves watched him disappear into the rough, murky water. But thoughts of Sam had left their minds until someone ran past them and jumped off the cliff. Harrison gasped when Sam straightened out his body, not wanting to land the same way as Hunter. His body entered the water smoothly and he quickly tried swimming to the surface. Opening his eyes, he saw Hunter fighting for his life, but he was strong enough to bring his head above the water without help. Quickly, he swam close enough to grab his shoulder before yanking him back into the air. They both gasped and Hunter coughed like his lungs had captured some water. Sam looked around, but it was clear that they'd have to swim for ages to find a simple rock to cling onto. The cliff offered no support. Sam, go. Hunter breathed. He was in so much pain and his body was quickly deteriorating. Swim to shore. Leave me here. No, Sam was stern and held him strongly. His legs were furiously kicking against the current. I'm not leaving you. If you're gonna drown, we drown together. Hunter winced when a little wave pushed them into the cliff face. You're an idiot. He breathed. No, the struggle was clear in Sam's voice. I'm loyal and would do anything to serve you. Nobody deserves to die alone. Hunter's head went underwater for a moment until his beta heaved him up. And who knows? Maybe I'll find my mate in the afterlife. Hunter released a low grunt which could only be detected as a chuckle. You deserve one, Sam. He paused when his vision started fading. Thank you. 𝐿𝐴 had asked for a better friend. A lump caught in the beta wolf's throat. He didn't want to cry, but he was getting tired and wouldn't be able to hold them both above the water for much longer. I have something to confess. He breathed and gasped when they were slammed into the cliff face once more. You'll be shocked to hear it, I think. Hunter tried to connect a mind, link with Jacob, but his head was too injured and weak. Nothing shocks me that much anymore. Hunter's voice was quiet and he tried to support Sam in the water too, hoping that Jacob would feel his distress and find him. Well, I will. This will. He coughed when the water was forced into his mouth. His alpha connected their gaze and he found the perfect moment. Taking a breath, he announced his secret. 𝐊𝐴. Everything was silent, even the waves. Hunter's eyebrows found themselves rising and not once did he disconnect their gaze. And I have a major crush on William. They bobbed up and down against the tide. The seagulls above could now be heard screeching in the air. Hunter was growing cold. His lips were slightly blue and his teeth had started to chatter. But surprising news filled his head. It was something he did not suspect. Not in the slightest. U.S. Serious. Hunter, we're going to drown. I wouldn't throw jokes at you like this. His alpha shook his head with a struggling smile. He was about to ask why he kept it a secret, but a huge splash erupted in the water next to them. Sam jumped and nearly let go of Hunter, whose head fell prisoner to the waves once more. Sam looked around until strong arms wrapped around him and Hunter, pulling him back above the waves. A head popped up in between them and Sam wanted to cry and scream with happiness. Jacob. He breathed when his alpha's eyes started to close. He had fresh blood pouring from his nose and his head wound. Hold tight. This is going to be rough. Jacob understood that if he came 30 seconds later, they both would have drowned. Sam put his arms around him and also grabbed Hunter, who was almost unconscious. Taking a deep breath, Jacob focused on his power and used everything he possibly had to transport them out of the water and away from danger. Chapter 73. Scott, William, Margot, and Anthony received a huge shock when a very loud bang echoed through the room. Looking up, the light was swinging from whatever hit the floor. Without saying a word, they climbed to their feet and aimed for the stairs. The only person who could have appeared upstairs was Jacob, or one of the painters had fallen. Nathan went home to give Vic a very stern lecture about his views. When they reached the second floor, Hunter's room was the first door on the right. Everyone ran towards it and their worry grew with what they saw. Hunter was unconscious. Sam had blood trailing down the side of his head, and they were soaking wet. Sam couldn't bring himself to stand up. He was breathing heavy and trying to pull his head into a better place. Seconds ago, he thought he was going to drown. A miracle saved him and Hunter. Sam could not believe that anyone would want to kill two beautifully soulful people. A Hunter, Margot breathed, alarmed by the blood and bruises forming on his face. She ran to his aid. Just like Anthony, William and Scott ran to Jacob, crouching to see if he was all right. What happened? Anthony asked, desperation lingering in his tone. 𝐿𝐴𝐺𝐳. Margot was trying not to cry while her gift worked its magic. They are traitors. They tried to kill him. What, why? Scott breathed and rested a hand on Sam's shoulder, checking if he was okay. They don't like the gods. Jacob furrowed his eyebrows. They pushed him off a cliff and into the sea. He and Sam nearly drowned. I only just made it to them in time. Please. He needs a doctor. Anthony fumbled in his pocket and quickly pulled out his phone. He knows some wolves who are doctors and will drop everything to a Hunter, by the sounds of it. Taking him outside is too dangerous. Margot rested her hands on his head and gently stroked his cold cheek. I think he'll be okay. Nothing too severe has happened to his head, but we need to change his clothes. She looked up, expecting everyone but Jacob and D'Anthony to leave. "Well, wait downstairs for the doctor," Stott replied. "William?" "Help Sam to his feet." William moved over, not caring if Sam was soaking wet as he lifted his cold arm and put it around his own shoulders. Sam would be ecstatic if it was for his own injury, interfering with his feelings. Admitting how he felt to Hunter was because he really thought they would drown. Now that he had shared it with someone made him realize that it was so bad to be heard. When they were on their way out of the room, Anthony put his phone down after having a very short, yet serious conversation. A doctor was on their way. "What are his injuries?" Anthony asked. "I can't quite tell for sure." Argo's horrified eyes stared at the deep purple bruises forming on his ribs. "His nose is broken and his jaw is a little beaten. He has about 6 or maybe 8 broken ribs." She was overwhelmed at seeing him so emotional and hurt. "He has dislocated his shoulder too." Jacob sighed, feeling very sorry for him. "It's freezing." Anthony ran a hand through his hair. "He doesn't even have clothes or a duvet we could wrap him in. Everything he owns was burnt in the fire." Jacob quickly stood up with a twinkle of hope in his eyes. "He'll be right back." All it took was a simple blink for him to disappear from sight. Margot started pulling Hunter's jeans off, but was faced with more bruises. Warm tears flooded down her face. "How can his own pet do such a thing?" she whispered. "They are supposed to be by his side for. How is he going to trust anyone again?" Anthony put an arm under his son's neck and an arm under his legs, gently lifting him up, wanting to place him on the mattress. He'll never get over his fear of water after this. His veins were pulsing with immense anger. When he laid him down, he looked up like he was staring at the sky. What has he done to deserve this? He's just a boy. Jacob's feet hit the wooden floorboards and his arms were too full to catch his fall. Yet he toppled onto the duvet which he had carried over. Hunter's parents rushed over to take some dry clothes and a soft cushion to put under their son's head. The doorbell could be heard echoing through the house while the 2 painters stood in the doorway, watching with worry. Stott rushed to bring the doctor inside, alerting the bodyguards about what had happened. Sam stayed sitting on the couch, wanting the doctor to aid Hunter before himself. "Can I get you anything?" William asked. "I'm fine in jest. Happy to be alive." Sam was exhausted. He wanted to sleep for days. Actually, could you get me some tissue? I'm sick of getting blood in my eye." William pulled out some kitchen roll that he already grabbed. He shuffled closer, looking at the deep wound with further concentration. "That looks sore." Sam reached for the tissue, but William took the task into his own hands and held it up, gently dabbing the wound and soaking up the blood on his head. "It's fine. It'll be healed in a few days." "Is that like a werewolf thing?"
Sam smiled, but his eyes didn't light yet.
He was not feeling himself. Trying not to stare at William was hard, especially when he was sitting close. But he couldn't admit his feelings. He isn't his mate. There is no point developing feelings for someone who is not his chosen one. He could wait his whole lifetime searching, but if his mate never comes, then he would rather be lonely than fall for someone who isn't right. And plus, William isn't gay, as far as 𝐻E's aware. Remember to give him these painkillers every 4 hours. 𝐻E's going to be in agony for a few days. The doctor stood up and straightened out her waistcoat. "Keep him warm, hydrated, and make sure he eats something when he wakes up. These tablets will make him feel drowsy, but he needs nutrients." Margot and Anthony nodded at her words. "Thank you for getting to us so fast." "We can't thank you enough." Margot gave her a hug. She has known this woman for many years. "You're more than welcome. This is the least I could do." The doctor's eyes were so drawn to Jacob. "Excuse me for being so informal, 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐼, but you are loved and worshipped among many wolves. Do not let those who fall off the path of faith drag you down. And it is a pleasure to meet you." Jacob showed a little smile and a single nod. "Thank you." Satisfied, the doctor then turned and left, knowing Sam downstairs needed medical attention. When she was gone, Jacob took his gaze back to Hunter. The wound on his head was covered with a white dressing. His nose was cleaned and the doctor had put white sticky strips on it, holding it securely so it could heal correctly. His left eye was rather swollen and bruised. When will he wake up? Margot sat on the edge of the bed, feeling the anger pulsing through her. Hopefully soon, but he needs his rest. Jacob stood up and clenched his fists. He too was angry. It is true that he didn't know much about how pacts work, but loyalty is exceptionally important. Hunter trusted those men with his life and they betrayed him. Anthony watched him with an immense flow of revenge manipulating his heart. Margot, Jacob and I have something to deal with. His wife turned, connecting the gateway to their souls. She knew what he had to do, and when it came to their son, nobody got in their way. Go, everything will be fine here. They turned and approached the door. Be safe. Anthony flashed her a comforting but not a happy smile. We will. Tell us if he wakes up. Anthony, his pack, and Jacob had been running through the woods, searching from house to house, but there was no sign of the Omega wolves. Each home showed hints that they had packed up and moved on. Anthony was furious. This meant that they were planning to kill their son for some time now. When Ricky's home was empty too, Anthony flipped the wooden table with anger. I can't believe this, he yelled. Who do they think they are? Alpha, Ray, his beta wolf spoke. Is it wise to maybe call a city meeting? There will be people willing to help. Surely, someone must know where they went. Anthony clenched his jaw and looked around. Burn their homes. Burn everything. They are not getting away with this. Jacob, come with me. My pack will get started right away. The wolves watched him stomp out of the house. They felt rather satisfied with destroying all of the filthy 𝐊𝐤𝐳 belongings. Pack betrayal was worse than family betrayal. They couldn't imagine how hurt Hunter will be. What are we doing? Jacob questioned. Calling a city meeting. I'm not going to stop until I find them. I know you're angry to Jacob. The sky hasn't stopped with the thunder. Anthony's eyes were filled with dark emotions. It's not my son they want dead. It's you. I should have known that there would have been a great deal of conflict. I just hid a hopeful will over my eyes, thinking that everyone would be inspired by you like I am. It's not your fault. Nobody knew the conflict would be in Hunter's pack. Not even Sam had suspicions. I know, but the thought of all three of you being dead right now makes me feel sick. It was 𝐿𝐤𝐳 who told me. Well, her spirit. He spoke quietly as Anthony crossed his arms and stared hard. That's why I could see her. She knew the 𝐊𝐲𝐬 were disloyal, so Ricky killed her, not wanting their plan ruined. Someone came to me in the bedroom using her body. They didn't tell me who, but are werewolves the only other supernatural beings to exist? Oh, well, yes, I believe so. Apart from the gods, of course. Anthony narrowed his eyes, starting to get used to Jacob's discreet but visible hesitation. You're not sure, are you? The god shook his head. I know werewolves can't appear to people in spirit, and I know it was another god. Anthony shrugged. I don't know who it was unless angels are real, but I honestly doubt that. Shaking his head. He has had enough. Come on. Don't let that bother you right now. We have to go to the city hall. Tick off everyone who enters and rule out those who don't turn up as suspects. Wait. I can teleport us there. Oh, all right. Anthony walked over and held on to him. Seeing Jacob as his son's mate was a blessing. Today, he saved Hunter's life and he will forever be incredibly grateful. I hope you're ready to defend yourself. I don't know how many wolves will turn up having the same thoughts as those 𝐊𝐤𝐳. I am prepared. And am angry. Will you show them your anger? Jacob nodded. They hurt Hunter. He stopped when Sam's voice invaded his head. Jacob, get back to the house. There's like a weird gathering of wolves going on in the field behind the garden. I don't think they're here to worship you. Okay, I'm on my way. We're going back to the house. I have a strong feeling that the mission will be fulfilled. Today. All right. Do whatever you have to do. Jacob swallowed his fear and with a simple blink, they disappeared. He didn't know what was going to happen. He didn't know if the people crowding outside the house would be willing to fight, or even kill. The Omega wolves turned their back on Hunter with so much ease. He feared for the worst. However, they don't know how strong he really is. They don't know that they are about to test his patience and watch it snap. And they don't know what it feels like to be in the wrath of an angry god, or what it feels like to have unspeakable amounts of electricity surging through their bodies. Thoughtless actions might just be enough to cost them their lives, and they are feeling rather reckless, mindless and unaware of how much danger they are in. Under the mighty eye of 𝐊𝐿𝐬. Chapter 70 for Jacob landed smoothly, keeping himself and 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐬 on their feet. However, their minds were panicked and wanted to understand the dangerous situation. William ran down the corridor, greeting them outside the kitchen. "What's happening?" 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐬 questioned. "I don't know. Sam said there are wolves on your field." 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐬 ran past the boys and into the kitchen, wanting to see for himself. When William turned, Jacob grabbed his arm. "Are you okay?" his older brother asked. "This is dangerous, Will," he whispered. "I can feel it." William rested a hand on his shoulder with concern. "I don't get how you think and feel now that you're a god. But whatever you need, we'll be right behind you." "Okay." Jacob nodded and took a big breath. "I wish Hunter was awake. It's because of those people that 𝐻𝐻𝐬 not. You need to show them who's in charge in this situation. They can't do whatever they want. They think you're weak and we both know you're not. I've seen your power, Jay, and if they did too, they would know who you really are." William was always good at pumping the confidence into him when he was nervous. "I'm angry. I know. I don't blame you. They tried to kill your boyfriend. If I were you, I'd have my knuckles deep into their faces by now." William studied him for a further second, wanting to help. "And if you're angry, let them see it. There's no shame in it. You sound like Dad." William chuckled, earning a little flicker of a smile from Jacob. "That's not a bad thing, is it?" He frowned. "No, it's not. Right? It most certainly is not." Scott's voice caught them off guard. "It's good to know my wisdom is rubbing off on you both." They walked over, watching him with slight amusement. But before they could continue the conversation, a loud noise, followed by what sounded like smashing glass, came from the kitchen. Sudden footsteps approached from the bottom of the stairs. Margot was marching towards the kitchen with raging eyes. The boys moved out of her way, and even Anthony Calden stopped her from stomping out and into the garden. Nobody wrecked her new home. Everyone entered the kitchen to see that the crowd of wolves were now standing at the bottom of the garden, spilling into the field. The bodyguards were trying to stop them and calling their packs to the house in the process. "Bodyguards. Yeah, right?" 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐬 muttered under his breath. "So far, they have done nothing useful. They didn't even warn him about the intruders." Margot stopped at the edge of the patio, leaving almost 20 meters between herself and the rowdy werewolves. "How dare you?" she yelled. Even her husband experienced shivers down his arms. He would never like to be caught up in her anger. She is always right and arguments are very, very unfair with her gift. "This is my home. You could have hurt my family." A mocking laugh was shared by the men and women. "Like we care. You're a family of freaks," a woman yelled with a smirk. Jacob flinched at that word. He hated it. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐬 marched out and stood proudly next to his wife. "Our son is lying unconscious upstairs because his own pack tried to kill him. Are you really that desperate to get rid of a god? How could you accept taking an innocent life?" Being in the presence of 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐬 was making some of them stand silently, feeling that maybe they are taking things a little too far. "You can't go around claiming that your son is a mate of a god. And how can you declare to have a god in your family? You're greedy, selfish and only want power." A man raised his fist in the air and everyone cheered. 𝐿𝐻𝐻𝐬 shook his head. "There were around 50 werewolves here. That is nothing compared to how many people are in the city. Yet, small but deadly would be a perfect way to describe them. You're out of your minds." Turning, he motioned through the broken window for Jacob to come outside too. "Go, son." Scott patted his back. "Show them who their real leader is." and show them that they can't just mess with Hunter and get away with it. Jacob found himself nodding to his father's words. He was right. As usual, Hunter is in great danger if he simply lets them get away with hurting him. They need to know the consequences of their actions. Taking a steady breath, he walked through the big kitchen and out into the open of the non-believers, trying to make eye contact the best he could. Jacob stood next to Margot, wanting to look confident. Now he just needed the independence to speak up. A low grumble of thunder echoed through the air, giving him support and encouragement. There was a dark atmosphere, almost like the sun was hiding from the dull mood. Did you help Hunter's Omega Wolf's plan how to kill him? Jacob cringed. Why did he have to stutter? What? A woman yelled, followed by a patronizing cackle. We can't hear you. Laughter erupted from the crowd and Scott's heart sank. He had so much faith in his son. He just needed to find his godly spirit. You're no god. You can't even speak up for yourself. How can we say you're our leader? Acting like that. A man yelled. Margot lifted her hand and gently squeezed his arm. Jacob just wanted to hear Hunter's voice in his head. If he was here, he would have everyone bowing on their knees. But he is still unconscious and not able to provide assistance. Any one of us could have been a god. Why are you so special? You're wrong. 𝐴nthony growled. Where is your faith? This boy only found out about this way of life a few weeks ago. You can't expect him to simply know what 𝐻ES doing. Shut up, 𝐴nthony. A man with the word trust tattooed onto his neck spat out his words. It was against the law for werewolves to get tattoos as they show up on fur. Trying to blend with natural wolves makes it impossible. My faith was with you until you started worshipping him and feeding it into our heads that we have to do the same. We have no royalty. The gods are corrupt. They will destroy us. How? Margot yelled back as Jacob started to clench his fists in anger. They are back to protect our kind from collapsing in on itself. The gods are good for us. What a load of rubbish. The gods only care about themselves. They would never think about putting their lives at risk to save ours. Not in a million years. And you know the gods personally, do you? 𝐴nthony scoffed. If you're so sick of us forcing our beliefs on you, why are you here trying to do exactly the same? Because we need to unite. You need to know how toxic he is. Enough. Jacob's deep voice boomed loud, instantly cutting off their argument. The sudden creamy glow of electricity shot from his hands and exploded in front of the crowd. Loud gasps were shared as they jumped back, stunned from the sudden danger. It fried the grass, but nobody cared. Jacob had found his godly attitude. Answer my question. Did you help Hunter's Omega Wolves with their plan to kill their alpha? As he spoke, he was aware that his mate had woken up and was trying to climb out of bed. Hunter was too weak to connect their link, but he heard yelling and needed to get the window. It took a moment for the werewolves to find their voice, still shocked from the electricity. Yes, a woman cleared her throat, wanting to stand her ground. We did help them. The only way we can get rid of you is by targeting your mate. Jacob stepped off the patio and glared at them all, showing his fierce irritation. His hands were still accompanied by little bolts of lightning, circling and twisting around his palms. You have no right to even think about him in that way. 𝐻ES my mate, and you will not get away with hurting him. Well, look who has found his voice. The guy with the tattoo stepped forwards, challenging him. You can't stop us. We're going to end you. Filthy god. Jacob lifted his hands, just as Hunter made it to the window so he could see what was happening. Electricity rope shot out of his palms and wrapped around the man's arms, instantly burning his skin. Jacob yanked it, pulling the screaming man towards him until he could grab the scruff of his t-shirt. His eyes exposed terror within the werewolf. He could barely look into them. Jacob studied his face, clenched his jaw and released a very intense atmosphere. Good luck. Hunter was in unbearable pain, but he called to stop the feeling of pride from shivering down his spine. That's it, Jacob, he croaked, even though nobody could hear him. You show them who's boss. He then collapsed onto the windowsill, unable to hold himself up any longer. Jacob pushed the man back with so much force, The other werewolves had to stop him from falling over. The rope vanished, leaving nasty burns on his arms. "Jacob, how could you hurt?" "Never. Call me Jacob again," he growled. "To you, I am 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐿, your leader." Anthony raised his eyebrows and smirked, just like Sam, who was standing at the door. Scott was biting his lip, trying to keep back his immense joy. "We don't need a leader. We don't need anyone to look up to." "Then why have you looked up to Anthony for all these years?" "Just because this is new and hard for you to understand doesn't make it okay to banish it." The intruders looked at each other, whispering and wondering what else they could find to argue about. However, some of them were here for a little more than talking. "We came here to finish the job," a woman at the front yelled, looking at Anthony. Her eyes were evil. "I'm sorry. I liked your son, but it's a real shame this happened to him." "Wolves," a man screeched. "Kill Hunter Raisin." Every owner's eyes wide and a surge of panic washed through the house. It suddenly felt like it was playing out in slow motion for Jacob. The raging wolf started running towards him, angry fists pointing in his direction. In a matter of seconds, they would attack him and hurt anyone in their path. They would charge into the house, searching for his mate, and once again, they'd attempt to kill him. However, the god would never allow such a disgraceful offense. Margot and Anthony only just started to react as Jacob had gone through this whole thought process. He knew what he had to do, and when it came to defending Hunter's life, he would happily kill to protect the one he loves. In his left fist, an extraordinary swell of power built up, taking his anger, distress, and pain with it. For a second, it felt like more than what was happening to him today affected this change. All those years of bullying, self-hate, torment, humiliation, affliction, and heartache was brought to the surface. All those times his mom stripped away his true qualities. All those times he was called a freak, looked down upon, and was believed in, mixed with his power. He felt every last emotion, and it almost brought him to sudden tears. It was overwhelming, shattering his timid, spineless, and unassertive personality. He stuck up for himself and fought back. 𝐿𝐤𝐧𝐿 lifted his hand that was now crackling with the volume of power, letting out a cry of anger as the non-believers were only a few feet away. He crashed his fist down, punching it straight into the concrete, sending cracks right under his feet and burns onto his knuckles. The aftermath was like a ripple of energy, bursting from his hand, abruptly working its way through the werewolves and destroying every ground, floor, glass, window. The building quaked on its foundation. Yet Anthony, Margot, William, Sam, and Scott were protected. A simple breeze washed through them while everyone else was knocked off their feet and pushed several meters back. Their bodies were filled with electricity, shocking their organs. When they hit the floor, the god ended his strong cry of courage. Hunter had seen everything from the bedroom window. He almost passed out twice, but he wanted to witness the incredible audacity from his mate. "If you ever dare to plot against this family, my family, or my mate again, I will wipe you off the face of this earth." Jacob no longer had to yell. His words were stern and pounding through their minds. He changed into his magnificent, godly wolf and howled. The noise was inspiring and mesmerizing, causing the birds in the sky, and even the insects on the grass, to stop and watch. The hypnotic sound was also a warning, delivering the heart-destroying message into those who swayed their faith. "Do not underestimate me. I am your God. I give you life, and I can destroy it with a simple beat of your heart." His message was sent to every wolf in the United Kingdom. Just like when the lunar cycle came to an end, the intruders were lying in the garden, either dead, barely alive, or awake and wishing they were dead. Jacob changed back and stood up. He took a breath and turned to Hunter's parents. "I'm sorry for breaking your windows." After brushing down his shirtless chest, he casually walked past everyone, wanting to check up on his mate. Their eyes followed him and their mouths hung open. To be in the presence of someone so influential was the greatest miracle they will ever receive.